Welcome again, everyone. Jess, over to you.
Thank you so much, Daniela, and thank you for giving me space and allowing me to share with the Astrobio community. Lots of familiar faces here. So to those that are new faces for me, hello. My name is Jessica Swan, and I am what's called a program architect of communities of practice. And so what I'm going to share with you today is one of our communities of practice that offers a funding mechanism for subject matter experts like yourself. I am a former educator by trade. I am not that sort of subject matter expert. I am an educator expert. It's going to come out as I'm presenting, so just be prepared. Let me do a screen share here real quick. And you all verify for me that you are actually seeing my slides. Amazing. Okay, so I'm going to talk with you a little bit about NASA Scope at first. So what is NASA Scope? We'll talk a little bit about what is this NASA Science Activation Teams, if you're not familiar with them. And then I'll talk a little bit about our seed grant opportunity and some very explicit requests in the search for subject matter experts. All right, so go ahead and get started. So the first question most people ask is, will you represent SciAct? Well, what in the world is SciAct? And so we're funded out of the Science Mission Directorate, and we're a group of, it's actually about 53 teams, even though I know that says 48, but we have 53 teams. We report in the most recent annual report, 52 million learners have been engaged across the entire ecosystem. We leverage multiple community partners. So you see across all those teams, we have 525 community partners, and we also reach all states and all territories. It is ultimately our goal to build partnerships between science experts like yourself and the public. So what we want to do is to be able to engage learners of all ages to do science. And the term science activation comes from this part of the mission statement, which is to activate minds and promote deeper understanding of our world and beyond. All right, so science activation has actually been, we've been a program since 2016, and around year 4, there was a request for a NASM report to evaluate the program and identify any potential gaps. And so there were 2 major gaps that came out of that report in 2019, which was that the science activation didn't really have a way for subject matter experts to be able to engage in these outreach sort of efforts, so educational outreach opportunities. Very specifically, those that are in the NASA world were really struggling to figure out what is their new mechanism for being able to share their science. And another area was that we needed to work more explicitly on broadening our participation. So really being able to bring greater diversity and more voices into science activation. So there was a Rose's call saying, hey, we need to shore up these 2 particular areas. So give us your best pitch. And so we proposed the NASA Scope project. So what NASA Scope really is a community of practice. And so what we're trying to do, similar to you all, you are a community of practice, and people identify in a variety of communities. And in our particular community, what we're really trying to do is bring together subject matter experts like yourself and these science activation teams kind of in the same space. And when we come together, what we're doing is we're doing some virtual training together. So we talk a little bit about communications and how we reach a variety of audiences, and really kind of learning together to be able to share our science for the greater good, so for learners of all ages. So we have multiple, when we proposed this, we said, obviously, there are a number of SMEs out there that are not connected into science activation. So we recognize the fact that it is our job to bring them along the spectrum of involvement. Ultimately, it is our goal to get everyone into the center of our diagram, which is where our SMEs are collaborating directly with SciAct teams, and they're co-creating together and or leading projects. And one moment, please. this will say it's not loading, and then I say show it anyway. Okay, so if you may not know about communities of practice, so let me just give you a quick overview. So there are 4 types of communities that are out there. So you have these communities that are really about helping each other. There are best practices. You have those that are within they're in the innovation space, so creating new things. And then you have your knowledge stewarding groups. So what we really identify with, again, pause. So we consider our community more of a best practice. So we have all of these science activation teams that really know how to engage with their very specific communities. We have a variety of communities that are represented through SciAct, as you can imagine, with so many teams that are funded within that umbrella organization. So they really understand the best practices and how to approach the particular learners that are the audience within their community. Of the same thread, you as subject matter experts know your content better than anyone else. And so you know how best to share, or you know best about your science that you want to share. So in a way, our community is really about figuring out ways to translate your science for the general public. And also, communities of practice actually have 3 areas that they work within. So every community of practice has a domain, it has the community, and what their overall practice is. So the domain that we're working through here in the SCOPE project is Earth and Space Science, Engineering Education, and it is our ultimate goal to broaden participation and engage learners of all ages. So what's going to be really critical there is that understanding that it is our goal to broaden participation, and I'm going to get to who our target demographic is here in a minute, and it really relates to that. Secondly, it's our community. So our community is composed of, as I've mentioned, we've got all of the NASA SciAct teams, we have subject matter experts, and then early career scientists. So we work with grad students, and we also work with PhD candidates all the way up through postdoc and beyond. And it is our ultimate practice within the group is to create these educational materials that are inspiring and effective, and they're true to NASA science. So instead of us as educators going off and putting together what we think is the best representation of the current science, you can tell us what the current science is. That way we know what's being disseminated is accurate. And then the last key phrase there is inclusive of all audiences. So broadening participation and inclusive of all audiences. So the reason I say that is it is our goal to recruit the majority of our SMEs from the early career pool, because within early career scientists, we typically see that there is greater diversity, greater voice. So if we're focusing primarily towards early career scientists, then inherently we are helping to broaden participation of the scientists that are included within our ecosystem, but also it allows those learners that are working directly with SciAct teams to be able to see themselves in this space. Okay, so how are we building the community of practice? So a couple of different ways. One is we go to a lot of conferences. So we are always sharing at conferences. We are usually out on the exhibit floor because we like to make a lot of noise and bring a lot of attention, and we have a lot of fun. But also coming to community meetings like these. We have communications workshops that we hold. So we have something called the AGU SciAct Affiliate Program, which is one of our other funding mechanisms, where we recruit 10 early career scientists, and we provide them a travel stipend to AGU and provide science communication training through the AGU Sharing Science Committee. And then we also do a handful of workshops throughout the year as opportunity presents itself. Daniela was so kind to be one of our best presenters, actually, and sharing with our community about working with Indigenous communities. We provide multiple virtual training opportunities, similar to the one that I was just saying about Daniela's engagement. And then finally, we offer a whole slew of seed grants. So there are 3 different categories of seed grants that we provide. I'm going to focus on one particular category today because that one actually has a deadline that's coming up. So we're going to talk about seed grant projects. Okay, so the seed grant project, our ultimate goal was to reduce barriers to participation. We know subject matter experts are busy. we know that there has to be some benefit for you to be involved in some of these educational outreach projects. You have a lot on your plate, and especially when we're talking about early career scientists that are really trying to set themselves up in the research space and demonstrate that they have the ability to do this in the community. So what we want to do is provide funding as a way to reduce barriers to your engagement. So you can actually propose anything between $5,000 and $20,000. The levels are, let's forget the 10 and the 15. You can propose $5,620 if you wanted to. It's the funding levels between 5K and 20K. And it is our goal to make sure that you are being compensated for your time and your expertise. Also, be able to provide you some of the resources that you may need. For example, I have a couple of seed grants right now that they are producing art that will then be infused within the science activation teams. They needed a license to Adobe. They wrote that into their grant, so now they have the Adobe license for the year. So it's a way for you to be able to get the materials that you need, but also compensate you for your time and effort. We do consider multi-year projects. So we know for a fact that our first multi-year request is coming in this year, and actually in this particular call. And we do calls twice a year. So our next call, we have a notice of intent that we're requesting by July 31st. We do have resources that are available on our website if you have any questions. So things like a grant writing video. So there's a 30-minute video that will walk you through writing a grant. If you have never written a NASA grant before, our grant writing video is designed to share with you how you can write in more of a NASA style. So as much as possible, we try to mirror NASA style with our proposals. These proposals are 2 pages. They're intended to be small. They don't have to be, full on 10, 15, 20-page proposals. You're only asking for 5 to 20K. So there's no reason for us to write a really big, long proposal. So 2 pages, we provide you a template. So say, hey, this is how you can organize it. These are the things that you should be including in your proposal. And this particular round, the proposals are due August 30th. So some examples. So this is our first round of seed grants. Allison and Rhiannon have completed theirs. Veselin is super close to completing. 2 of the first 3 are citizen science projects. And one was just, from the ground up. She works in a meteorite center, and she was looking for ways to be able to she wanted to work with the tribal communities in and around Texas in order to be able to figure out where meteorites landed on tribal land and be able to help make connections. Allison actually worked with the Oceanos group, and they're based out of the words are escaping me now. I was so good. Now all of a sudden, no words. So they actually collect data in the Caribbean, and they work with students annually to learn how to collect data. And Allison actually does all of her research on phytoplankton in the Arctic regions. And so what she has done is she shared how to collect phytoplankton data and then make the connections between what we see in the Caribbean with what we see in the Atlantic. And then Veselin has brought his Planet Patrol project to community colleges. So they're actually sharing Planet Patrol as one of the options for being able to collect astro data and share it back out to the citizen science community. And I won't go through all of them, but just to kind of showcase that we do have a variety of projects from all over the country, all doing very different things. So we've got digital in that first column. We've got, outreach and training in the second column. The third one is really about creating tools for citizen science and data collection. And the last one is, actually, that one's also tools and citizen science data collection, working with the blind and low vision community. And then we also have another round that's not represented here that we just made our announcements this week. So we've got 4 additional folks that have received their seed grant funding. So your next question is probably like, well, what's the process? How does this work? So Number one, I am a matchmaker. It is my job to be able to figure out who are the best matches that are out there. So if you are interested in a seed grant, the first thing you have to do is submit an NOI. And once you've submitted that NOI, we will engage with you and try to get an understanding of what your interests are, what your background is. And ultimately, we go out to science activation teams and we're out there promoting you. So hey, we have this scientist that's really looking to do X, Y, and Z. Is this up your alley? And sometimes I have to explicitly poke people and say, I think this is up your alley. Are you interested in doing this? What is critical here is number 3, wait for your match. So as you may or may not know, anytime that you submit a notice of intent to NASA, they're going to tell you, should you do this or should you not do this? So this is kind of that gate. Sometimes you don't get a match. Sometimes you won't get a match for a year. What's important is that we know that you're interested in doing something in this space. And when a match occurs, we will let you know, hey, I've got somebody for you. So what I'm saying is if you don't get matched in this round, apply each round. Because SciAc teams are focusing on different things annually. They have different things that are motivating them, different types of data that they're collecting. Sometimes it just depends on what's happening in the NASA world. And we're all running towards, like right now, we're all running towards the annular eclipse. That's a lot of us are focusing in that direction. So just because it's no doesn't mean it's no forever. It's possibly just no for right now. But get your name in there, start applying to those NOIs so that we know that you're interested and want to stay connected. Once we do make your match, then we, with a lot of sis boom ba, make a connection and be like, hey, you guys have something in common. You should totally meet. Again, this is another space where once you've met, you may decide this is not the right space. So you may come back to me and say, that's not quite the right team. I need something different. Because I'm your matchmaker. It's my job to know exactly what your explicit needs are so I can find you the right match. So there's a feedback mechanism here sometimes to say, hey, that's not quite right. What I really need is this. I'll go out and find you another match. But ultimately, it is our goal to get both of you to step 5, which is you say together, hey, we want to do a thing. And then once you have that, then you go, once you have your match, then you're ready to start doing the seed grant process. So you're going to download the materials. I told you already, you have a template. Watch that recording. I told you already, you have a recording. You'll put together that 2-page proposal and a couple of other addendums that go along with it. And then you can actually request a review. So you can request a review. If you want me to take a look at your proposal and say, hey, Jess, can you take a look at this? Does this look like it's in the right space? I'm happy to do that for you. You know, go to your SciAc team, say, hey, can you guys take a look at this? Does this look right to you? But request that review. And then finally, you're ready to submit that proposal. So actually, let me go back. So once you submit the proposal, it's usually, 5-6 weeks before a decision is made. And then once a decision is made and we make your announcement, you'll either get your letter of acceptance or not. Usually funding comes in, we've got it pretty refined now. I say you probably receive your funding within another 6-ish weeks, 6 to 8 weeks after that. So when you're writing the proposals, you should be thinking in terms of a project that would be starting 3 months from the submission date. And projects usually run anywhere from 6 to 12 months. So the review committee really won't entertain anything that's going to run longer than 12 months. But you can say my start date is 3 months from now, and we will end by this date 12 months after that. That's totally acceptable. So the next piece here are a couple of explicit calls. So there are a couple of teams that have said to me, hey, I am really looking for this. I really need a subject matter expert to help me out in this space. So the first one is here with the Eclipse Soundscapes team, and they work with the blind and low vision community. And they're putting together opportunities to make observations, collect data around the eclipse. And so they actually have 2 different ways you can do this. One is that you just make observations day of. So they have training materials on how to make observations that are specifically geared more towards like middle school students. So they have resources that they can hand off to you if you're interested in leading an observation during the eclipse. You can make observations in that way, but then they also have kits. And so these kits are designed to be set out a day or two before the eclipse that will be collecting sound. It's going to collect sound data. What's the ambient sound? What's happening in this area? Because you can get a sense of what organisms are living there. During the eclipse, it's going to continue to record sound. And then the next day or two after the eclipse, it will continue to record sound. So things to kind of get your mind in the right direction. If you think this might be something that you're interested in, a space you're interested in, a seed grant idea for this group would be something like facilitate an event and make observations. And the people that you're working with, the learners that you're working with, can submit observations during the eclipse event. And they have a web form that allows you to make your observations. You could also propose building a kit. So I know that the Eclipse Soundscapes team is beyond capacity in building kits, but if they have a subject matter expert that's interested in working in this space, you could propose that you would build the kit and then facilitate this data collection with this community, so that 5-day window of data collection. Another option would be that you could propose building a series of kits that you then distribute to a variety of communities so that they can collect data around these eclipses. Maybe there's something in the translation of solar atmospheric data. This one I was really reaching on, maybe very explicitly related to the astrobio community, but something with, transits may relate here, and something that if there is a way to translate that sort of data for the blind and low vision community, and you already have an idea around it, it might be worthwhile to propose something like that. And then finally, thinking ahead to once they actually have data in hand, they're going to be looking for people to be mentors for data analysis within communities. So if mentorship might be more aligned with things that you're interested in, this might be something for you. And another group that's really looking has a very explicit need. This one, they're a collaborative that's in the Appalachians. And so they work with rural communities.
Да, меня отвлекли, да, я извиняюсь, сейчас отвлекли меня, да, честно.
Oh, I will go ahead and mute that.
Да, хорошо, да.
Alrighty, so they work in rural communities, and one of the things that they do is work with educators to try to get data into their hands that they can use into their classroom. So their very explicit need right now, they're trying to dig into some of the open science data that is available, very specifically VITA data. I am not familiar with this data, but if you happen to be familiar with this data, they're looking for somebody who can help them navigate that database. What she wants to do is to create this repository of data sets for educators, and then also somebody who can help train educators on how to compile their own data sets. And so she says, yeah, VITA is good, but also if they have experience in GitHub, that would work, or if they have experience with Jupyter Lab, that would help. Anything in those spaces, that's really what she's looking for. Okay, so those are two explicit needs. If you're really interested in, and I'll also pop this over into chat. So here's the link to the seed grant page. So you can kind of learn a little bit more there. And obviously we can talk, I can answer any questions that you have. But I do want to share, and actually Joe is here, so he can actually talk to this one. So this is actually a non-seed grant affiliated request. So here's the kind of the shtick. We offer funding to a variety of people to connect with SciAC teams, but some SciAC teams already have funding that they can give to SMEs to engage in their projects. Infiniscope is one of these. So this is not a seed grant call. This is a Infiniscope specific call, and I knew that they needed this, so I've shared it here. So Joe, do you want to talk a little bit about it?
Sure, and we talked about this a little bit a few months ago at an earlier guild meeting, but it's evolved a little bit since. So we have funding to make 2 suites of mission aligned learning experiences. We'd like them both to be around the concept of searching for life. We think one will be about Mars and the search for life on Mars. There's many missions upon which we can draw from, many SMEs from which we can engage with on Mars, and then a different one on Europa, where we look to do more search for life in the near future. And sorry, that's some really nasty thunder going on outside. I don't know if you guys can hear that. So we are looking for subject matter experts that are involved in the astrobiology aspects of searching for life on Mars or Europa. And in particular, as we've kind of been evolving the concept, we would love to tie it back to Earth-based labs that would do similar activities. We know the Mars samples aren't going to be returned for a long time, years and years. We know that the Europa mission is going to take a while to get there before it's returning real science. So in anticipation, instead of focusing on the science there from those samples, how do we know what we're looking for? What lab equipment do we use here? Who are the scientists involved? And understanding the concepts aligned with this, where they'd integrate in the students' high school or middle school curriculum already. Is that the level? I didn't know which level you wanted me to go. Is that about right, Jess?
That's perfect.
Great.
Just so people have a sense of what the opportunity is. So when I'm looking here in the chat, there are some questions about requirements. So requirements are that you are degreed or a degree-seeking individual working in a NASA science or engineering field. So you don't have to have NASA credentials. You just need to be doing work within a NASA science field. You could be working on mission. You could be an engineer with, just a grad degree. Not a grad degree, I'm sorry, with an undergraduate degree. So no, a PhD is not a requirement. Grad students and PhD candidates are options. Even better, Julia. So her question is what if I was associated with NASA before, but not at the moment? That's perfect, to be honest.
Why?
There is not a NASA affiliation requirement, no.
Okay.
Because, and the reason for that is if it's truly our goal to broaden participation in NASA science, then there are a lot of people that are not in the NASA space that don't represent that broadening participation. So this is a way, if you are funded under this program, that you can add it to your CV and say, I received a NASA grant, which then turns you into being a NASA affiliated subject matter expert.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I think I covered all of the questions in chat.
So is it specifically about data analysis? For example, what I'm doing right now, I'm focused on astrobiology, best astrobiology education practices in K-12 and maybe touching a bit on undergrad education as well. So is it something that would be interesting for this type of seed grants?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, if you work in this data space, I mean, like the one call specifically, they're looking for somebody who can help with data analysis and all of the processes that are associated with that. That seems like a very tight alignment to what that request is really looking for.
Yeah, I'm working with Indigenous kids and with low income and minority kids as well. So
then that's perfect because she's working with Cherokee students.
Thank you.
I will say that there is one requirement. So I should probably talk a little bit about how these things are funded because we fund a little oddly. So it was our goal for our subject matter experts to get the most bang for the buck. So if we run the funding through your institution, then you only, after overhead and everything, you really only get half of the money. And so we wanted you to be able to use all of the funding that you have been awarded. So what that means is that the funding comes directly from ASU to you as an individual, which means there's all sorts of tax implications that go along with that. But also that also means that you need to be a US citizen or a green card holder to apply. And if you are a civil servant, I can fund you, but I wouldn't be able to distribute the funds until January, because I do have a reserve pool set aside for civil servants that can be redirected to your institution. But that has been tapped for this year.
Okay, just a comment/question in the chat about this. Martina is saying, just to be clear, we have to be tied to an institution to get funding.
You do not need to be tied to an institution to get funding. The funding will come directly to you as an individual. So you receive a check in the mail physically.
Hopefully that helps, Martina. Yes, okay.
Okay, other questions for me?
Omar, you just came off mute. Did you have a question?
I guess I have been, something like a checklist. So I have an affiliation that I'm working with the American University in Cairo. So I have a lot of professors. And beside the PMS, I talked with Dr. Ham to be involved in my project. So I'm trying to get, a lot of institutions, a lot of scientific communities to be engaging with us. Also, I'm having the Egyptian Space Agency is first, space agencies in Africa. So I'm trying to, mix in between all different global institutions to be involved in my project. So the question is, I need to be on something like NASA's affiliated or something like this to be an opportunity to be funded, or just I'm not in the US region and so on.
No, not necessarily. Is the project that you're working on that you would consider this for, is it NASA science related?
Yes, exactly. It's our mission, and the last part is going to the space camp. That's in Huntsville. So that's our target in the base.
Oh, yep. That's totally fine.
Well, this is another question. Are we focused only on US kids or US education, or is it international in scope?
It's because it is NASA funded. It would need to be, it would be anyone who serves US students. So it could be on US soil internationally.
Like, for example, teachers who are physically located in the US who are teaching kids in other countries. I'm teaching kids in the US, but I'm also teaching kids internationally. For example, I'm currently running a service for refugee kids in Ukraine. So would it be something NASA would be interested to sponsor or not?
I'm not sure about that second use case. Now, I would have to do some digging. Let me get back to you on that one.
I would appreciate that, because it could be done as two different projects completely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Any other questions for me? Lisa, I see your question. I'm going to get back to you here in just a sec.
I guess I have one. It should be in some specific format, or just, I'm making my projects about that competition. So I have some slides to share and so on. But we working on this project, I guess, from 2015. It's happening in Morocco, but we have the credentials to make, it's like a franchise or something like this in Egypt. So it's all about the competition. So it needs to be a research purpose, or it could be like a competition first of all.
You said you have slides that you can share?
Okay, I have 2 slides.
Okay. Yeah, I'd love to see the slides so I can better, I want to make sure that I know exactly what your request is.
Okay.
Thanks for making slides, Omar. Did anybody else make slides, by the way? Oh, Sarah, awesome. Okay, we'll go over to you next then.
If you can see my slides.
Yes.
Okay, I have been I'm a little business guy, so I'm making a lot of pitch decks, so on. So I'm making 15 pitches. This is supporting things that you mentioned in the first talk. But I made 2 slides. We like summarize. It's a competition called a Race to Space. Is something happening in 2015. That's its journey towards. They are traveling about 12 students as preteens to the space camp. It's funding about $70,000 or something. That's what happening in Morocco. They have support from the USMC, but in the Morocco. In Egypt, we have the same module, but we have the American University in Cairo. They are funding all basics of our project. So what we're asking for is competition, something like, FameLab. I guess you have been knowing about FameLab competitions as international competitions that are happening for science communicators. It's something look-alike. We have a 3-minute video for the university students. They are uploading their videos and they're going to the pre-selection jury. It's happening online. We have a panel of judges, some of NASA, some of Egypt, professors, PMS, and so on. Maybe some of Asian, international judges going to the offline phase to choose only 20 finalists. Then they use MC to choose in just 10 of them to traveling to the space camp. That's what's happening exactly in Morocco, but we have the same module in Egypt. But in Egypt, we have a different things that the offline phase, they are using only the online phases or the online judging and so on. We have an offline and online, it making it more larger. More duration, more fun. So we have this concept. This is our prizes that we have from 2015. They are choosing only 12 students to traveling to the space camp with funding of the USMC in Morocco. In Egypt, we have funding from the USMC, but for just 5. So it's not enough for the rest of the other 5 students. They are going to the space camp. Something about we have global corporations with a lot of institutions, scientific organizations. We have even contacting the SpaceX for some corporation. We go further to have a lot community of science to go further about this competition. We are not just being in Egypt or a specific country in Africa. It will be happening for the first time with a line in the Morocco. We go further to the whole Africa to participate in this competition. So you are participating on helping a lot of students all over the Africa to be this is for the milestones to the next years and next versions to having their dreams to reach the space camp and be future astronaut and be in touch with NASA scientists. So I guess the module, and I'm using my my knowledge and my expertise with PMS as a business schooler and be in touch with NASA scientists. And I was welcomed from the Hubble and Sanjay John from Plumar Space. I have a lot of support to do something like this, to helping a lot of students like me in Egypt or our region to go further and something like this. I don't know. I'm not going beyond the time, but I have a QR code for you to get more further about the project. it's a lot of slides, by the way. What we have doing as an astronomy club, this Dr. Graham was participating with us for. We have a lot of activities, stargazing, and so on. This our numbers, our partnerships with about 10 universities in Egypt and outside. So it's the journey, what's happening. We have even the Ministry of Yasa and the Sports in Egypt, and so on. Thanks for listening to me, and I'm sorry if just going beyond the time.
Thanks so much for sharing that. I have a much better sense of what you're working on. Can I ask you a couple of quick questions?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So the explicit connection that, well, what would you envision using the funding to do?
We using every fund we get just to funding all the basics, something like license, something like instruments, something like making a website and so on that we're using from American University in Cairo to just let all the fund we get just pushing into the airfares and the tickets from Space Camp. We taking here, giving there. That's all. So all other fundings we taking from local sponsors, for example, that's covering all our tools, our needs from online, offline activities, and so on. So we just need the whole cash, or the whole funding that coming to us to just achieving dreams of a lot of students in our region to traveling to NASA or even the Space Camp. So that's what we're using the whole fund that comes to us.
Okay. All right. I have a much better sense. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Thanks so much.
Okay, well, I will go next. I'm a lot less, I don't have many slides. I have 3. I'm less prepared than Omar was. But I'm kind of springboarding off of the last meeting that we had last week, which we had the open space software group, or, some of the developers come on, and they were talking about how you can fly throughout the solar system. And the only thing that they can't do yet is go under the water. And I was like, well, darn, that's a shame. That would be a really cool element that would interest me to add to your programming. So let me share my screen really quick for you all. And that's not the one I want to be on, but here we are. Because I just got back like a month ago from the Lost City hydrothermal field on an expedition on board the JOIDES Resolution. We went out there for both core sampling and for fluid sampling for future NASA missions to compare the fluids that we took from there to the samples that hopefully the Clipper mission will take. And so it was really exciting for me to be a part of that. And then it's just been kind of continuing on, if you will. I am going to be co-authoring with one of the scientists a book on the Lost City hydrothermal field vents. And so I have access to all these scientists that were on the ship with me and people who have gone previously for this book research that have all these amazing videos of, the vent field down there already. And the content is like, I have so much there to take to the open space group and be like, here's all the stuff we could actually make something virtually. So like I said, it's not as fleshed out. Oops. Sometimes it does this and I don't know why. Not as fleshed out as Omar's there, but I just have like lots of stuff that could be very useful for them. So anyway, it was an idea. You seemed excited. So I just kind of slapped this together.
Did you share this idea with the open space team yet?
So I haven't talked to them directly yet, but he was very in the meeting last week. He was like, yeah, like that's a cool idea, so I, would definitely explore it with them further. Mm-hmm. It was just a thought. Basically.
Yeah, that is like that out of all the SME requests, like this is a really easy one. So yeah, I can definitely make that connection for you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And it all will help me in the long run too, because then I have that software that I can do presentations on the Lost City, and it'll also help with the book project too, to have that kind of outreach element. So
yeah.
If
Awesome.
you're interested, I can go next. I can just show you. Oh, sorry, Joseph has a pen.
We had a hand up. Yeah, okay.
I'll just say quickly because of time. Sarah, we did a virtual field trip on the Joides like 3 years ago.
Okay.
Tractor, so there's stuff we could work with there. And as I noted earlier, we're looking for Europa-related SMEs. So
I know I kind of, my interest was piqued there too. I was like, yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at right now. I feel like this vent field and that ship are going to be a huge part of my career story for the next few years. So
excellent. Let's chat later. Thank you.
yeah, awesome.
And I'll point out that those two ideas are different funding pools. So you technically could do both separately.
I like what you're saying.
It would probably make it a stronger proposal too.
Yeah.
Got multiple SciAC teams involved.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I got a lot of resources. I'm excited.
Awesome. Thank you. Julia, did you say you had?
Sure. Yes, I can just share the screen, the website, and tell you what we are doing with the kids. If we have time and interest.
Yeah, go for it.
Uh-huh. So as I said, I'm running 2 projects right now. One is helping the kids in Ukraine, and the one that I was doing before the pandemics and still going on, where we have lots of kids who are low income and minority kids participating. So let me share the screen. So this is the website. We say educating the citizens of the universe. We have lots of testimonials from the kids, again, since it was running for the several years. And this is the one that I love the most, that says, this lesson had meaning to my life. Right? So we're doing mostly astrobiology, but not just astrobiology. The fall session that we do for somewhat younger kids, we do space mission planning. We talk with the kids about cosmology, physics, and the solar system, and where we can actually search for life in the solar system. The kids who come to me are just regular kids, come for an after-school program or homeschool program, but also we get students from BMS, who is serving low-income kids of New York and Los Angeles, and we're also dealing with some organizations who are teaching indigenous kids through the Association of Indigenous Math Circles, where I also volunteer. So for the winter session, we talk about what is life, how the life changed over time on our planet, the early Earth, and then we talk about life in space. We talk about humans in space. We talk about animals and plants in space. And we talk about different environments where we can search for life. So this is for our first year. Then for the second year, we talk about mind in the universe, more of cognitive astrobiology. We talk about how animals, non-human minds, perceive the universe, how we can be easily tricked, how our brain evolved, why do we need science, and so on. We also talk about cognitive sciences. We talk about the evolution of the brain. We talk about non-human minds that we are making right now, the AI mind. And we talk about contact and communication on different levels, starting from communication between the cells, then going into communication between the different groups, and then thinking, brainstorming about communication with aliens. And we also do, for the third year, we do world building techniques. We talk with the kids about how to build the future, not just take whatever happens, be actually active builders of the future. We talk about existential risks and opportunities, and then we end up with the course reflection and the final project for the kids. The kids have been winning lots of different contests related to the future building, as well as science contests, right? So we also do lots of webinars. The webinars are ran by the kids. The kids participate in science conferences. For example, this is last year teen conference where the kids were presenting their projects to Blue Marble Space Institute of Science scientists. The kids run their podcasts. The kids run their YouTube videos interviewing the experts. For example, you can see some of our speakers here. I haven't listed all of that. I need to do more of that, and so on. So again, we did it. We pilot tested it. We ran it for several years. Now we have hundreds of students participating in our classes. Would that be something that you would be willing to support? We can also take other people's materials, obviously, and incorporate into our classes.
Yeah, it just totally depends on if a SciAc team sees that there's a natural connection between what you're doing and what they're trying to accomplish. So I think we would want to talk a little bit more about the science activation teams that may be along the same lines and see if there's a there before I would say, yeah, you should definitely submit an NOI.
And just very quickly, I'll show you the team and what we're doing with the Earthlings Farm. And Lisa, it will be all yours. So this program, the founders are, except me, is Sasha Kaurov, also a Blue Marble Space Institute of Science affiliate. He is a PhD in astronomy and astrophysics and works at Harvard right now. And Yulia Turchininova, who is a professor of education and physics. And on our advisory board, we have Greg Shemitov, NASA astronaut. We have Yosha Bak, who is a visionary AI expert. We have Uri Vilyansky from Northwestern, the author of NetLogger language, and so on.
I'm going to jump in and just see. We have only a few minutes left. Thank you for sharing. Julia. I wanted to just see if Lisa, did you want to share a few things? You put some stuff in the chat, but did you want to share a little bit as well?
Yes, I would like to. I'm an individual that I identify with visible and invisible disabilities. And so I have co-authored a paper that's in review with Acta Astronautica for ADA, blind, visually impaired, and accessibility for all. There's also another paper, white paper I'm working on, but especially this one experiment that is launching to the space station on the exterior of the space station with the MISSI 18. And most individuals don't identify or know what the MISSI is. But as we're getting smaller and smaller with CubeSats, this is becoming more relevant with not only space exploration with the exterior and radiation exposure of the space station, but also to lunar surfaces. So if I can share 2-3 slides, just basically here. I did create a virtual tour with Arizona State University. I don't know if I can do this here. Zoom is quite a little bit different in sharing privileges with Chrome. That's something Sina Kirk and I discussed. But this is basically the virtual tour that navigating to share a little bit about the experiment. But it is an open source experiment, and with the video, and most importantly, the exterior of the space station, what's happening is we have the Cygnus 19. The Northrop Grumman 19 is being named after Dr. Laurel Clark, who was, we're celebrating and remembering her life from the STS 107. So that's a significant information. And the MISSI, which is located, we are trying to share everything about the MISSI because it is being utilized more so. And this is a NASA sponsored program, open source. So the sponsoring agency is NASA. The sponsoring organization is the National Laboratory. And what's important is that we are sharing things with students to understand that there's photography, there's a way for students from every individual aspect to be involved with this project for 6 months while it is attached to the exterior of the space station. Most experiments are the inside in microgravity. This one is to be different in that it is on the exterior exposed to the harsh elements and radiation, and it is open source. So all the information here about Dr. Laurel Clark and the biography, we even have videos of the benefits of space station. We have all the content in here, but we are also sharing about Tycho crater because we are preparing to go to the moon. I myself am a science communicator through the Planetary Science Institute and writing articles for them. And the information that is to be shared is that this is open source for 6 months for everyone to get involved. So I have been sharing this information about Tycho's crater, all the information with students in my community, in the indigenous communities, about the lunar surface, the dust, where we're headed, where we're going, as well as Mars and the craters to understand. So I have meteorites and tactiles to share with accessibility for all, as well as the NASA Science Now that we have, this platform that opens up for everyone to participate. So with this information that I'm sharing in my community, this is sharing the information broadly with the Stories of Space project. And we have several members that are all involved. And that's what we have. I am an undergraduate by choice because life happens. You know, with my disruption of my education, we had the September 11th adversity. So when that occurred, we lost several of our staff members and our professors in my community when I was doing my undergrad work. Transferring to the state of South Carolina, where I am now, of course, we had the pandemic. So for 3 years, again, that's abruptly. So I'm still going.
Thank you.
I'm still going.
Thank you for sharing all of this. We are a little over time, and we just had a message in the chat from Julia DeMarinis who wants to share as well. So thank you for sharing that. And Julia, over to you.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for, squeezing me in at the end. My presentation will be just super brief. Like Sarah, I also was at the open space meeting. Was it 2 weeks ago or last week? I can't remember. But it really got me inspired because planetarium software is just complex. It's expensive. You need a planetarium. It's not accessible. And when I saw that presentation, I had this idea of like, wouldn't it be cool to use the open space planetarium software to make DIY planetariums in areas that don't have them? So, and maybe make some kits. I don't know how this would fit into the grants mentioned today, but I just wanted to put it out there and maybe get a little bit of feedback. And I can just sort of share my screen real quick on like some ideas that I saw of like very simple cardboard DIY sort of planetariums and projectors that you can like that are pretty inexpensive that you can create to make a projected like sphere. So that's it, really.
I have an idea.
Thank you.
But I need to reach out to the SciAC team and see if it's something that's of interest to them. But I have an idea. So
Okay.
that's a cool idea. Yeah, totally. And I mean, it's easily, there's an easy connection. It also is another easy connection with stuff that the SciAC team was doing. So absolutely. All right. Well, I dropped my email over in chat. So happy to talk more with you folks if you want to explore this idea a bit more. The NOIs are due by the end of July, so feel free to go ahead and submit it. And that just kind of gets me all of your information, and I'll reach out with each of you individually to talk more about your project ideas so I can make sure that I can find you the right match.
Thank you so much, Jess. That's awesome.
Thank you
all for being here and sharing your ideas and things you've been working on. It's really great that you just hear that so you can see what people are up to and percolate some thoughts. But everyone, please do respond to the call for proposals. And we, as the Guild, are going to be working on making sure you are able to meet more and more SciAC teams over time so you can see what they're doing and over time plug into that landscape more. So that's our goal. Are there any last minute questions, especially about the seed grant? Does everyone have links that they need? Jess, is everything in the chat? I'm going to be saving the chat.
Okay, I'll drop it again.
Okay. Awesome.
Thank you so much, Jessica. It was wonderful to learn about these opportunities. And thank you, Daniela, too. And it was so great to hear about everyone's projects. That's very inspiring.
Totally. I agree. Okay. Both Jess's email and the URL for the seed grants is in the chat. So I will make sure that all goes to you in a follow-up email. But for now, please go ahead and reach out and go for it and contact Jess with any questions.
Absolutely. Again, thank you so much for allowing me to take up space today. So
the space was all yours. Hey, everyone. Thanks,
everyone.
See you soon.